Once again, it is time to sort out the AFC playoff picture, now heading into week 10. As usual, the playoff computer app is used to provide the base of this analysis. If you are a fantasy football addict and want all sorts of geeky data for your playoff races, including the semi-famous paths to clinch, check it out on the Play Store. And fair warning, this is a mathematical analysis with no bias for or against any teams. Only actual results, tiebreaker records, and the nuances of remaining schedules are used to tell us where things stand. With that being said, the team in the AFC with the highest statistical chance to make the playoffs is, of course, still
We're number one. We're number one.
the
We're
Kansas City
number one.
Chiefs. Still undefeated after a scare from the Buccaneers. A virtual lock to make the playoffs. Very boring stuff. The only remaining drama is whether the Chargers or Broncos give them some form of competition for the division. As it stands now, the Chiefs are 83% favorites to take the AFC West, near 100 for playoffs. The computer says they have a not too far-fetched chance of making postseason without winning another game, with one more victory getting them to what is a safe mark for a wild card. To win the division, projections are that they will need 10 or 11 wins for that. With future games against the Panthers, Raiders, and Browns, that should not be much of a problem. On tap this week is the last chance for the Broncos to put up a fight for the division. A win by the Chiefs would complete their first round against division opponents and ensure they could not lose the head-to-head tiebreaker against any of them. The Buffalo Bills move up to the second spot with their fourth win in a row. The latest completing a season sweep of the Dolphins. And of course, helping them is that no one else in the division is playing anything near 500 ball. So they hold a commanding 4-game lead in the AFC East. In fact, it is becoming near a statistical impossibility that they could make the playoffs without winning the division. 97% to make the playoffs, with 94 of that being to win the division. With the rest of the division combined having the same number of wins the Bills have, the computer says the Bills' win target to take the division is a mere 8 to 9, with 9 being a safe mark, meaning they likely just need 2 more wins, and their schedule includes 2 games with the currently 2-7 Patriots. Next up is a road game in Indianapolis before hosting the Chiefs ahead of their bye. The Strouds slipped a spot to number 3 with that Thursday night loss to one of Garrett Wilson's hands. But much like the Bills, not too many teams in the AFC South are providing anything resembling competition to them for the division, with the Colts the closest at 4-5. But the Texans already swept that season series. So again, much like the Bills, it would be very difficult for the Texans to fall off the cliff just enough to not win the division, but not enough to get a wild card. 88% to make the playoffs, with 82 of that to take the AFC South. Same win target as the Bills to take the division, get to 8 or 9. So likely just need 3 more victories. And they have 5 remaining games against sub-500 teams. This week is not one of them, though, as they host the Lions. The Pittsburgh Steelers hold steady at number 4 as they rested on their bye week. Now a bit better than 50-50 to win the AFC North and 87% to make the playoffs. With the Ravens giving them a run for the money, the Steelers' win target for the division is 10 to 11, with just 2 or 3 more wins needed to get a wild card. So another team that just needs to show up for a few more Sundays to at least make the playoffs, and they have 2 to play against the Browns later on, so not too much worry. They haven't played any division games yet, do have a 4-1 conference record with wins over playoff contenders Broncos and Chargers that may come into play later if they find themselves competing for a wild card instead of the division. 2 tough games upcoming now that they are rested. Visit the Commanders this week and then host the Ravens. And those Ravens also held their position, staying at number 5 with a win over the Broncos. That puts them at 6-3 and evens up their conference record. And more importantly, that's a win against a team in the playoff race for possible wildcard tiebreaker advantages later. Currently a 38% chance to win the division and about 4 out of 5 to make the playoffs. Should just need 3 more wins to at least be in position for a wild card. Host the Bengals this week, which would be a chance to swat a division rival almost out of the picture. The Los Angeles Chargers continued their rise up the charts, now up to number 6 after taking care of business against the Browns. That puts them at 5-3, 2-1 in division play and 3-2 in conference play. Have one head-to-head victory over the Broncos already, gives them a chance to sweep the set with them later, and means they can't lose that head-to-head tiebreaker. Other than that, no head-to-head results that at the moment look important. The Chargers' chances to make the playoffs are now nearing 3 of 4, with just 10% of that to win the AFC West. Host the Titans this week, so an excellent chance to pile up another win, which is important because they will have a streak of tough games afterwards. Bengals, Ravens, Falcons, and the Chiefs that they will have to soldier through. The Denver Broncos swapped places with the Chargers and slipped to number 7 after their loss to the Ravens. At 5-4, still pretty good chances to make the playoffs. 59%, although any dreams of the division are fleeting fast, down to single digits. As for head-to-head results that might come into play later on for wildcard tiebreaker, there is only bad news so far, but just a bit of it. A loss to the Chargers, and they lose a tiebreaker to whichever AFC North team between the Steelers and Ravens doesn't win that division. They are going to have their work cut out to stay above 500, travel to Arrowhead this week, and then host the Falcons before getting some more favorable matches against the Raiders and Browns ahead of their bye. The Cincinnati Bengals got back on the winning track of their win over the Raiders to stay in the picture. With 5 losses already, there isn't much chance for them to win the division. Most likely would need to win out to take the AFC North. Basically 1-3 to make the playoffs. Going to be a tough road for them to get over 500 mark anytime soon, with away games against the Ravens and Chargers, and then a home game with the Steelers after their bye. The Indianapolis Colts slipped under the 500 mark after losing to the Vikings, their second loss in a row. Now down to just a 10% chance to win the AFC South thanks to being swept by the Texans, and 1-3 to make the playoffs. 3-3 in the conference, but not much that is likely to be relevant for any wildcard tiebreakers. Do have a decent remaining schedule to stay in the hunt. 5 remaining games against teams currently under 500. This week hosting the Bills is not one of them, though. Next week against the Jets might sink the hopes of whomever loses that one. And those New York Jets moved up 3 whole spots and preserved some slim hope to make the postseason with their win over the Texans. Still 3-6, so the work is far from over. Do have only 2 remaining games with opponents currently spotting a winning record. Right now, a 14% mathematical chance to make the playoffs. Cardinals up next, and then that game against the Colts to likely see which one stays in the picture. Side note, the Jets no longer control their own destiny. they could win out and miss the playoffs. The Tennessee Titans climbed up 5 spots after beating the Patriots, but the problem is they were on the bottom rung before, and this just gets them to 2-6, just 11% to make the playoffs. Would likely need to go 7-2 the rest of the way, and their next 4 are against the Chargers, Vikings, Texans, and Commanders, so good luck with that. The Miami Dolphins couldn't pull off the victory against the Bills, and that about ends their hopes. The only thing they might be able to hold on to is they, on paper, have the easiest remaining schedule. Just 2 remaining games against teams with winning records at the moment. The Jacksonville Jaguars are now 2-7 as well, without much hope. And add into the mix the Vikings, Lions, and Texans as being their next 3 opponents. The Cleveland Browns lost to the Chargers to fall to 2-7, and with on paper the hardest remaining schedule, I wouldn't look for miracles. The New England Patriots, with the loss to the Titans, are down to just a 4% chance to make the playoffs, and they are mostly over the softer part of their schedule. The Las Vegas Raiders bring up the rear, riding a 5-game losing streak, and while not mathematically eliminated from it, they are realistically out of the AFC West division race, as they couldn't achieve even the computer's projection for the minimum win target to have a chance. Just 3% chance to make the playoffs. That is the AFC picture for now. Until next time, enjoy your day.